Hello, I'm Josh Friend, CEO and founder and seller and co-host of AIinLending with Michael Hammond. Michael will be coming on shortly with a special guest, but in the meantime, I want to read a few news updates. Luma AI unveiled Dream Machine 1.6, an update to its popular video generator, allows for more precision, including custom camera movements. The AI search platform U.com raised $50 million in a new funding round as it pivots to building AI-powered productivity agents. Alphabet is integrating Gemini into the Chrome address bar so that users can seamlessly ask it questions without needing to visit the app. That'll be a nice feature upgrade. Safe Superintelligence SSI, a new startup co-founded by former OpenAI chief scientist Elias Sutskever, just raised $1 billion in funding to develop safe AI systems that surpass human intelligence. Researchers have discovered that making AI systems reread questions twice, mimicking human behavior, significantly improves the reasoning and problem-solving abilities across various tasks. Anthropic launched Claude Enterprise, competing with ChatGPT Enterprise by offering larger context windows and GitHub integrations for businesses. Listen, the race has just started with this AI stuff, and the innovations are not slowing down, right? Sakana AI raised $100 million in Series A funding and announced a collaboration with NVIDIA to advance AI research infrastructure in Japan. Salesforce agreed to acquire AI voice agent firm 10x to enhance AI offerings, joining tech giants in the race for AI talent and technology. Microsoft has announced its Copilot AI features will also be expanded to laptops starting in November. Accelerate, our Ethereum platform, has reached a milestone by analyzing, scoring, and coaching on over 250,000 unique customer inquiries. Now I'll turn it over to Michael and a special guest.
Thank you, Josh. We've got a great guest coming up for you today. I would like to welcome Jonathan Kearns, Vice President of MISMO, part of the Mortgage Bankers Association. Jonathan, welcome to the AIinLending podcast.
Hey, Michael, thanks. Happy to be here. Excited.
Well, it is great to have you, Jonathan. You and I have known each other throughout the years. You've been on the tech front lines. You're continuing to lead the charge. I love what you're doing at MISMO. So let's kind of dive right in.
Sounds good.
Tell me about, you guys have done a couple of work groups, a couple of summits now. One of them was specifically focused on AI. What were some of your key takeaways from that summit?
Yeah. So as you said, we've done a few different things so far this year. We've done a whole day workshop of artificial intelligence, and we've created an artificial intelligence community practice within the MISMO communities. And so what I've really seen go on, it was interesting in that the AI summit that we had, and the AI summit that we had was really interesting. We really focused on, there were really three key factors in there. One was operational efficiency. There was a lot around, because think about this, we've been using artificial intelligence for a long time in the mortgage industry. We just called it machine learning. So
Right.
we're really focusing on the Gen AI, but you're still doing a lot of operational efficiency items in there. That's what we saw a lot of, verifying data versus documents, providing information on the seller. The selling guidelines was a huge thing of being able to find the information you're looking for easily. The second thing we saw was enhancing the customer experience, all the way from understanding what loan programs are available to the borrower and the consumer, to down payment assistance programs. It's very difficult. There are over 2,500 of those right now out there, and so it's hard to find that information. So lenders are using AI to help provide that information, not only to the consumer, but to the loan officers themselves. And then the one that really had a lot of traction in it was code development. So software development process, actually, the software development lifecycle. Almost everybody that was presenting had some form of utilizing AI or playing with AI in their software development lifecycle.
Interesting. And I think I'm glad you made the point, AI, machine learning has been around since the 50s. I think where people are starting to get even more excited is some of the generative AI, some of the large language models. People think chat is everything and it's great for content creation, but I love how you brought up other examples of where companies in the mortgage industry are using AI. I gave a talk a week or so ago at a conference, and people are using it for fraud detection. They're using it for underwriting now. It can now analyze and assist sales and loan officers for what they're saying, how they should be saying it. They can start predicting who will close, who won't close. So
Yeah.
I think it's a very fascinating time. And the analogy I gave is it's just like the internet when I got in the business,
Yeah.
let's just say 25 plus years ago,
Yeah.
leave it at that. But people were the only people at the company when I got in the industry that were allowed to use the internet were C-suite and above, the executives of the company.
Yeah.
No one else had access, and people were like, oh, that's crazy. Why not? Well, there was fear of security. There was fear of people were wasting time and they were going to be unproductive. There was fear of privacy, very
Yeah.
similar to what we're experiencing in AI. So what would you say to people of how do they need to start getting into AI? Because I don't think you can put your head in the sand and just hope in a couple of years when things are really figured out, you can just dive in. People need to embrace AI, but how do they do it in a smart, a technically approached way to doing it?
Yeah. So the first thing I'd say is, listen, just because you don't have corporate AI strategy yet inside your organization doesn't mean it's not being utilized already today. I'd be shocked if there was any organization that employees aren't utilizing AI. So you have to build a strategy around it, and at least a high level framework of, hey, this is what we should be using it for, and this is what we shouldn't be utilizing it for. And at least set that framework for your employees to know. Everybody is using it at some point in their work effort today because it makes our life a lot easier. And so I think that's number one. The second thing would be, where are your pain points and what is your appetite? You mentioned the sales process, right? That's a low hanging fruit. To your point, it's finding things. If you have a call center and such, there's applications out there now that will find the information and understand, analyze the conversation, and provide heat maps on the ability of how likely people are able to get a new loan and their willingness to do it, right? So there's the ability, but there's also the willingness. And so it's pretty interesting information out there. Of course, as you said, underwriting's a low hanging fruit as well. But that's one of the things we see people very concerned about, right? Going into AI is on any of the decisioning mechanisms for credit worthiness and funding at the end of the day. So
Yep.
you're seeing a lot of them on the outskirts of that. And again, software development lifecycle, almost any company I talk to now is playing in that SDLC space.
You make some excellent points, and I think let's talk about the underwriting point. When you start getting into credit decisions and everything like that, if there are already built-in biases, even if they're unintended biases within your organization and your lending practices over the last 50, 20, 15, 10 years, and you build an AI model using a lot of those insights, you've built in some of those biases. And that's why it's so critical that when you start talking about, well, as soon as we start getting into a credit decision, as soon as we start making a loan decision off of borrowers, who's eligible, who's not, that's where you really got to have those guardrails in place. That's why it's so important to be involved in an organization like MISMO and find out what are the standards, what are the best practices. So I love the stuff that you guys are doing. Tell me a little bit about kind of some of the things you have at MISMO for the rest of the year and what you guys are looking forward to, in 2025.
Yeah. So a few of the things that the artificial intelligence community practice is working on is one, just a glossary, right? We've seen in conjunction with the Mortgage Bankers Association, we've been developing a glossary for the mortgage industry. Just like in cloud computing, right? There's many different definitions of the items inside artificial intelligence. So what does it mean inside the mortgage industry? So the group has came up with a solid set of definitions, just pulling from other areas. Like, we're not creating a new definition, but saying, hey, NIST has this, financial services are utilizing this. And that's what actually the FHFA Tech Sprint in July utilized as their foundation. So that was a big important piece to get out there. They're continuing to work on that. I think the second thing they're really focusing on is it's a collaborative environment. To your point, Michael, MISMO provides that safe space for people to come in and talk about what they're doing, but most importantly, what they're not doing and why as well. And so I think getting that framework down, but understanding how to document what you're AI, your large language models are doing. That's that next evolution of what we're really discussing in there is, hey, how do we know? Because just underwriting's a perfect example. We've got to be able to tell them how we made this decision, right?
Right.
And so every decision that AI is, we have to be able to document how it's making that decision. To your point, there's biases built in. But the interesting thing about the large language models is it teaches itself, right? So how do we know what decisions it's making? And so we've got to build documentation on the large language model for it to output. This is why I made this decision. This is how I came to this determination. So that's the next level of teaching it. We've also seen people discussing, let's use a different LLM than the LLM that's making the decision to analyze it, right? So use an AI to check AI. And so that's been a pretty interesting conversation.
Well, I love that. It's the first time I've heard somebody saying I'm using a different model to check the other model. Now, in writing content, creating content, I've taken something from Chat and put it into Perplexity, or from Perplexity to Claude, and you get some different output, and it's good for a couple of reasons. For one, I like using the different models so I have an understanding of what each model does, their strengths, their weaknesses. I kind of like Perplexity most right now because it's telling me this, and it's citing the sources. So I know, where did it get this content,
Yeah.
instead of just trusting and cutting, pasting content. But to your point, this is an area that I don't think is going to go away. It's an area that is going to continue to evolve. I think one of the most exciting things is the AI models that we're using right now are the worst they'll ever be. They're only going to get better. They're only going to get more robust. What are some of the other guardrails that people need to start taking into account? What are some of kind of the ethical considerations? There's not a ton of concrete laws out there saying this is how to use AI or this is not how to use AI. So what are some of the things that you're seeing at MISMO and at the Mortgage Bankers Association of how to help people set up some of those guardrails?
Yeah, first is that educational framework, right? And understanding what the terms mean, understanding where it can help in your organization. Take small bites of the apple, and don't be naive to where it's not already being utilized in certain situations. And so I think those are a lot of the things that we're trying to focus on right now. Having a lot of just discussion about it inside there of going, hey, this is what we're doing in analyzing phone calls. This is what we're doing in credit worthiness, and more importantly, this is what we're not doing in credit worthiness because of it. Like those discussions and understanding where it's going to go and how it's going to help. But I think that piece of documentation of being able to have the large language model output how it's making the decision, right? Because to your point, it only gets better and better and exponentially. Like actually, I was thinking it was going to slow down considerably after 4.0, but it doesn't seem to be the case, right? It goes exponentially faster, and so at some point there's going to be a lull. You got to think that the jumps in the abilities of them will level out and gradually increase. But those are the things, and I guess that's another thing is don't get caught up in it, right? Like that's
Right.
how do you get to finish something before the next thing is out, right? And so those are the things that the industry needs to focus on, in my opinion, and what the group is talking about.
Jonathan, you are welcome back anytime. We could continue to talk. You have so many great insights. If people want to find out more about MISMO, if they want to start getting more involved in these work groups, if they want to find what are those definitions that you guys are starting to set the groundwork for, what's the best way that they can get involved and get in contact with MISMO?
Yeah, there's two ways to do it. Obviously, our website's great. It's got all the information up there. It's mismo.org. Or you can email in at info@mismo.org, and we can guide you to exactly what you're looking for, because we do have 35 separate initiatives going on at any given time. And so there's probably more than one that somebody's interested in. And so, info@mismo.org is a great way we can get you connected, mismo.org, and attend a summit. January is going to be in Destin, Florida. So, I mean, it's going to be beautiful in January. And so those are incredible networking and educational content summits.
Oh, that is fantastic. Make sure you guys get involved, find out what's going on at MISMO, go to the website, register for the conferences. Jonathan, I can't thank you enough for being a guest on this episode of AI in Lending.
Appreciate the invite, Michael. Thank you.